As many will know, the last few years have been abuzz with the talk of secret UFO programs, advanced drones, and of course the US Pentagon's releasing of UFO footage taken by the naval pilots or military pilots you probably remember seeing them on television. The 3 films were said to have been captured by military pilots of unidentified crafts, which were given the names the Tic Tac, the Go Fast and the Gimbal. Despite several official statements, it seems that the US government have never lost sight of their interest in this phenomena. For over 10 years now, the Office of Naval Intelligence has been covertly investigating aerial encounters between military jets and unidentified vehicles. It also shows that despite repeated denials, these events are still of great concern to the US military because of the possible threat they represent. Possible being the word here. According to the Pentagon, a program to examine the phenomena had been closed down, but nevertheless, it seemingly still remains and has simply been renamed and tucked away out of sight inside the Office of Naval Intelligence. Researchers first got wind of such a program back in the day of Robert Bigelow and his newly created NIDS National Institute for Discovery Science, a scientific team which was secretly investigating phenomena surrounding Skinwalker Ranch in the Uinta Basin of Utah, as well as a number of other similar locations. As you can see in this video filmed by Sam Chortek and Jimmy Chappie in January of 2019 in Utah, the strange craft is seen to appear near the distant mountains, descends and quickly turns, travelling around 3.5 miles in just 1 second. If these stats are correct, then that's an incredible 12,600 miles per hour, captured on high-definition cameras of a drone in flight. The object was neither seen nor heard at the time. The banking manoeuvre, however, is usually a telltale sign that we are dealing with a craft which is bound by the usual physics an aircraft encounters when flying. If I was to be asked, I would suggest that this craft in question may very likely be manufactured by human hands rather than something representative of the phenomena. It has become difficult over the years, though, to identify between our tech and the phenomena. When observing crafts that morph into various shapes, split apart or merge together, materialize or dematerialize, have seemingly a conscious connection with the observer, etc., these seem to represent the aspects of a true phenomena. After all, there are many examples of the true phenomena seemingly defying our known physics, such as a saucer-shaped craft seen traversing in a vertical position rather than a horizontal position and zipping around the sky in incredible speeds, something you are not likely to observe if it was maybe something made by human hands, that we created it. Of course, we can never truly be 100%. And we know very little about the incredible technology we humans may now possess, let alone the capabilities. Robert Bigelow's also had his own program known as the Advanced Aerospace Weapons Systems Application Program, or SAP, which was said to have become the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, ATIP. But now there seems to be even a newer program in operation. Pentagon officials refuse to discuss this program, which bizarrely, although they claim is not classified, it deals with classified matters. And it recently appeared in the Senate committee report outlining spending on the nation's intelligence agencies for the coming year. Although this makes it appear legitimate and above board, much of this funding disappears into the black budget program, of course. So what it is used for and where it eventually ends up is anyone's guess. It seems the further you dig, the more red tape you encounter, secrets buried away under the convenient heading of national security. However, the opinions from the researchers I know are seemingly divided when it comes to the strange high-speed crafts such as the Tic Tac UFO. Some believe that because this craft was said to have descended 80,000 feet to 80 feet in just seconds, that is far beyond human technology. But is that an accurate statement? Some researchers myself included, believe we cannot rule out the possibility of advanced human engineering. Take for example, the Tic Tac's unusual appendages allegedly seen and described by the military pilots. They look remarkably similar to pitot tubes found on earthly airborne vehicles, used to measure airflow and send data to onboard computers, which, when coupled with GPS data, allows the craft to self-guide and adjust to a given route. Even things like this that talk of naval patents surrounding hybrid aerospace underwater crafts, capable of flying in space, in the sky and underwater, without feeling any inertia. Again, opinions from researchers are divided. Some specialists like Simon Holland and others have even suggested that these particular objects may be advanced aerofoil type drone technology used by secretive branches of the military, and occasionally naval pilots are pitted against these during certain operations, leaving the naval pilots confused and concerned. There are a couple of examples of this. If we take, for instance, the stealth fighter. Now, we do know the stealth fighter was being manufactured and test flown secretively 1973-1974. Now, we didn't see the stealth fighter until, I think, 1991 during the Gulf War. I think we saw it on television and we all thought, wow, what is this? Now, what's interesting is that the stealth fighter was encountered back in the day, 1973-74, by pilots flying the Starfighter. Now, the Starfighter was an incredible aircraft. It was a lot faster than the stealth fighter, but they were kind of pitted against it, and those pilots didn't have a clue what they were being pitted against, and probably reported some of these things as UFOs. Are we dealing with a similar sort of thing, where military pilots, even now, might come head to head with some of these strange exotic craft, thinking they're UFOs, and they're told not to fire on them, maybe even not carry weapons sometimes? And they're actually watching how the pilots are pitted against these, how they react. And this is all measured and calculated and documented. You know, it's like if you were in the army and you had to do a 12-mile hike through a forest. They're not going to tell you that Company B halfway through the forest is going to jump out at you. Because they want a live scenario to take place. They want to see what the reactions of Company A are compared to Company B who's coming out to attack them. Very similar things do take place like that in regarding aircraft, skirmishes, tests, operations. And I believe that could be the actual case here. According to news items that appeared in the New York Times, an official report named another program as the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force, the UAPTF, which is intended to standardise a collection and reporting of UFO sightings of these unexplained aerial vehicles, and to release at least some of its findings to the public within 180 days of the Intelligence Authorising Act being signed into law. What we got back, though, was deflating and of little interest to many researchers that were attempting to gain some clarity on this. While officials who are involved hoped the program would provide evidence of vehicles from other worlds, it is mainly focused on establishing whether other nations, especially potential adversaries, are using unsuspected aircraft or specialised technology that could threaten the United States. As an example, Russia or China advanced unmanned aerial drones, which can seemingly travel at immense velocity due to them not being restricted in speed and manoeuvres because they are not piloted by any form of biological systems, human beings in a sense. The acting chairman of the Senate Select Committee of Intelligence, Senator Marco Rubio, said that he was interested in any unidentified aircraft seen over American military bases. He also said it was vital to discover who they belonged to and where they came from. He was concerned that some potential hostile foreign powers may have developed and advanced technology that allowed them to do this, and the United States was unable to stop them. Mr. Rubin said some of these unidentified aircraft were using technology unfamiliar to the US military, but he added that the explanation for this could still be a normal one. I totally agree. An Israeli military document dating back to 2004 referenced strange crafts seen over their military bases and were often forced to scramble their jets to intercept these. However, this seemed to be pointless as these crafts would suddenly dart off at incredible speeds and, in doing so, often performed incredible maneuvers, leaving the Israeli pilots stunned. Now, Israel do not shy away from the reference of UFOs. They have used this acronym many times before in military documents. However, when it came to these types of incidents, they referred to these crafts as CIA drones. Interesting. There is the possibility that the military pilots might be engaging our own secret advanced technologies and that they are unaware of this. US Navy FA-18 Super Hornet pilots encountered unidentified flying objects at over 30,000 feet while conducting training missions off the east coast of the United States back in 2014 and 2015. It was the first time the most advanced sensor fusion, networking and computer processing capabilities were united, available across an operational carrier strike group. One of those ships already had a track record of encounters, the USS Nimitz, including an encounter with a Tic Tac UFO off the coast of Baja, northwest of Mexico in 2004. These mysterious crafts have also been filmed in other areas and locations in the US by a large number of witnesses, some of which I've talked to and obtained video footage taken from cell phone, like the one from Amber White from Wichita, Kansas. The Nimitz-class aircraft carrier, USS Theodore Roosevelt, had just returned from a significant 4-year overhaul in 2013, which included systems associated with the latest operational iteration of the Navy's cooperative engagement capability. When the Nimitz Carrier Strike Group encountered the Tic Tac UFO in 2004, it was in the midst of the first ever CSG level operations of the initial iteration of the CEC. This uses the strike group's diverse and powerful surveillance sensors, including the Spy 1's radars on the Aegis combat system, equipped cruisers and destroyers, as well as the E-2 Hawkeye's radar picture from high altitude, and focuses that information into a common picture via data links and advanced computer processing. This in turn provides very high fidelity thanks to telemetry from various sensors operating at different bands and looking at the same target from different aspects. Instead of the objects such as stealth fighters disappearing and reappearing on normal radar systems with the CEC, the target will remain steady on both platforms of the CEC, enabling screens as they are seeing fused data from both sources like many others as well. The data link connectivity and the quality of the enhanced telemetry means that weapons platforms such as the ships and aircraft could also fire on targets without needing to use their own sensor data. For instance, a cruiser could fire a missile at a low-flying UFO that is being tracked by the Hawkeye and an FA-18 even though it doesn't show up on their own scopes. The CEC enhances the ability to engage opponents using remotely launched weapons. Now it's interesting to note that in 2004 the incident of the Baja Coast was the most opportune time to capture the very best real-world sensor data on high-performance target in near lab-like controlled settings offered by the restricted airspace. The Theodore Roosevelt Carrier Strike Group's encounters with UFOs only began toward the end of 2014, according to the Times newspaper. In closing, it's hard to overstress just how opportune the conditions would have been for this particular CSG or elements of it equipped with the world's best air defense capabilities to be tested against exotic and high-performance flying craft. It is also curious that sightings of these objects would coincide with the first major deployment of the CEC and the NIFCCA architecture and the E-2D Hawkeye. And then more would occur around the time of the strike group's workup to this first operational deployment of those systems. This information may indicate that the US Naval strike group's specialized radar tracking systems and equipment was being tested as part of an operation using advanced aerial vehicles currently owned and secretly flown by fractions of the American government.
They tried to have me question very valid UAP reports like the Tic Tac incident, and even coming to stating possibly that the Tic Tac was American technology.
As we know, in 2017, an article appeared in the New York Times that revealed the existence of a unit called the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, ATIP. However, officials from the Defense Department said it no longer existed and had been disabled or disbanded in 2012. However, people who were working on the program denied this and said it was still in existence, something that was later confirmed by Defense Department. The program began in 2007 and was originally run by the Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA, but was eventually placed under the jurisdiction of the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence, which still remains responsible for it today. The Office of Naval Intelligence will coordinate its operations within the intelligence community, as described in the Senate budget bill. So it seems that despite denials, the program was never really shut down, although little was said about it after 2017. Now, Luis Elizondo, a career military intelligence officer, allegedly was in charge of the Pentagon's Aerospace Threat Identification Program, who resigned in October of 2017. He confirmed that the new task force evolved as part of the Advanced Aerospace Program. Now, Mr. Elizondo claims to have been in charge of a previous Pentagon program monitoring unidentified aerial vehicles. He said that, in his opinion, it was no longer necessary to deny their existence because the public had a right to know. Elizondo is among a small group of former government officials and scientists who are certain that objects from unknown origins have crashed here on Earth and parts have been taken from them and analysed. For more than a decade, interviews were conducted with those involved in this program, and it became clear that the Pentagon was keeping various interested groups, both government and civilian, informed at highly classified briefings. Now, according to some of the scientists, in some instances, earthly explanations were found regarding previously unexplained incidents, but even a lack of plausible terrestrial explanation does not necessarily make it an extraterrestrial one. Harry Reid, a former Democrat senator from Nevada who helped to obtain the funding for the earlier UFO program, said he believed that crashes of unidentified objects had occurred and that any materials taken from these objects should be studied. I totally agree. He said that after examining the evidence, he had come to the conclusion that both the government and the companies in the public sector had material taken from these crash sites. However, none of the artifacts found at these crash sites had ever been offered for independent analysis, but based on government laboratory studies. Some retrieved objects, mainly metallic fragments, were later identified as originating from here on planet Earth, hence being manufactured from high purity aluminium. This conclusion is debatable because if the results came from the government labs, then there is every chance that any findings that were not acceptable were deliberately concealed. One astrophysicist, Eric W. Davis, PhD, who worked from 2007 as a subcontractor and consultant for the Pentagon UFO program, said that examination of some of these materials had failed to determine their source. He said quite categorically that he did not know where they came from, but it certainly was not made here on Earth. But after talking with a number of people that are connected with these scientists I believe that this was a red herring, purposely included to keep the popular narrative going. The so-called analysis carried out on some of these materials concluded a 4% isotopic differential. That means, though, that they are not manufactured from materials found here on planet Earth, like dark bismuth, silver, magnesium, zinc alloys. They do not have the same earthly trait. A 4% isotopic differential means it's not terrestrial in origin. Again, I believe this is a red herring. Implant analysis carried out by the late Roger Leir allegedly found the same thing and were documented in his reports. Some small items were also said to have had this 4% isotopic differential, making you think that these two things are from the same source, that bits of metal from the alleged UFO are the same as some of the implants. Now, this would also make us assume that the occupants of UFOs have the capability to locate their abductees easily, because the implants are manufactured from the same source as a UFO. Easy to track. Of course, this I don't believe to be true. Dr. Eric Davis also made the point that the public should be made aware of these developments to help clarify what we know about these strange craft. The same astrophysicist who now works for an aerospace corporation, a defence contractor, said he gave a recent classified briefing to the Defence Department about material taken from these unidentified crash vehicles. He was also very clear that despite all the denials, this programme was never shut down. Committee staff members were approached, but they did not respond to requests. I bet they didn't. If there is, as many expect, a crash retrieval operation still ongoing, then I guess such operations may have existed through the 1940s, 50s, 60s and so on. Two of my colleagues, Grant Cameron and Richard Dolan, would agree that such findings would explain many reported incidents and shed light on some official documents. Take the Wilson leak for an example. Because of the dubious nature of the information from such briefings, it is difficult to discuss classified programs, and this has forced many of the officials who have studied UFOs to make their views known without any hard evidence. The public continue to be fascinated by the subject of UFOs, no matter what they really consist of or who's responsible for actually building them. And as for the continued sightings across the US, I'm sure we will be provided more footage as time goes on, even if it's just a bunch of misidentified balloons. I don't believe anything is released accidentally from official government establishments. In fact, some believe it could all be a plan to soften disclosure information about UFOs. Well, maybe, but I think it's far more complicated than that, especially now that there is an effort to change the narrative away from extraterrestrials and the ETH to interdimensionals and non-human intelligences, NHIs. So, for now, we're still left with a mystery. Are some of these strange craft ours, being test flown out there in the locations away from prying eyes, in areas where civilian boats and ships are restricted due to naval operations, in places where commercial jets might not be flying over? If that's the case, then the days of concluding such craft to be extraterrestrial in origin are almost truly gone.